Let's learn about computer storage devices. So you've written a paper, you've made a spreadsheet, you've created a presentation. That information is stored on your computer somewhere. But where is it stored and how does it stay there when the power is turned off and everything is unplugged? Well, that's what we're going to look at today. There are 6 different storage devices that have been used in home computers over the last 30 years. And let's take a look at them one by one. The first storage device that was used was called the floppy disk. Here's a floppy disk, and it came in this protective sleeve. And the floppy disk was actually floppy. You could bend it. It would be pushed into a drive inside the computer, and then it would spin around and around, and then tiny little magnets would write the data onto the floppy disk. So as it was spinning, the data would be written on there as like a little magnetic charge. This was good because you could easily take the information with you, like if you'd written a paper and you needed to go from your house to the school, you could bring that floppy disk with you. Some of the problems with the floppy disk were that they didn't store a whole lot of information. You could store maybe 2 pictures on them, not a whole lot. You could also not, if you put a magnet on it or you put it near a TV or anything that had a magnetic signal, then the data would get erased because everything was stored magnetically. If you were to open this up, you'd find that there's actually, I'll see if I can open it. There's actually a disk, and that's a disk of magnetic material that's right inside. Now at first you could only record on one side, but then it was later made so that you could write on both sides, and you'd actually have to take the disk out of the computer, flip it over, and put it back in. So there's also inside here some white paper that helps to keep the dust off the disk. The next storage device that was developed was called the hard drive. So here's a little plastic static bag with a hard drive inside of it. So this hard drive would be mounted right inside a computer. It would stay in that computer. So if you stored something on here, that's where it was. It was in that computer and it would stay there. Most computers today still have hard drives inside of them. The hard drive is actually a disk, but this time it's made of metal. And again, the little magnetic charges are put on there to store the data. You'll see that there's all sorts of microchips on the back here. And these microchips help control the spinning of the hard drive and where the tiny little head is, which reads the information. The hard disk spins, and then the information is put into the computer's main memory, which is where it can be used to make pictures or play sounds or whatever. This hard drive happens to be a 3.5 gigabyte hard drive. Nowadays, you can get storage in that amount in a lot smaller package. It takes up a lot less space. The next storage device was called, again, a floppy disk, but this floppy disk was much improved from the other one. You'll notice that it has a little door on it, and then it would go right into a drive. And here's a portable drive that came out later on, and you just slide it right into the drive, and you could press the little blue button to eject it. And then you could take it home with you, or you could put it in a little box. These types of floppy drives were even good for cameras, taking pictures. So here's a camera. This is a camera made by Sony, and it takes a floppy drive in the side, a floppy disk. And you could take pictures, save them on the disk, and then, if I can get it out of there, then you can put it into the computer and get the pictures into the computer. Now inside the floppy disk, this is called the 3.5-inch floppy disk. This is the 5 1/4 inch. So you can see the 5 1/4 inch was quite a bit larger than the 3.5 inch. Also, it's not as floppy. So you can bend it a little bit, but it's much stiffer plastic. And unlike the original floppy disks that were used in home, the window, there's a little metal window that covers up the magnetic part in the center also. Plus, it's only one-sided. So you wouldn't flip these floppy disks over. Now let's open it up and see what's inside. Hate to do this, but here we go. Okay, there's the window. Just a little piece of metal. Hopefully this won't shatter all over the place. Of course, opening this up ruins it, so I wouldn't be able to use this anymore. So here's the disk. Okay, it's still magnetic material. It's still susceptible to magnets. It could store more data. You could store maybe 20 or 30 pictures on there. You could store a presentation, a paper, some songs maybe. And this was much, much better than the floppy disk that came before it. As a size comparison, you can kind of see the difference in the size of the floppy disks right there. So this is the new one. This is the original, the 5.25 and the 3.5 inch. Now let's look at one more storage device. This will be the fourth storage device. Actually, the third storage device. And you're probably familiar with these. This is called a compact disc. Compact disc. This happens to be a music disc that I bought from a store, but compact discs could also be used to store data. At first, you could only record onto the disk, and then once it was recorded on, you could not do anything else except for read the information off there. You couldn't change the information if it was on there. You couldn't erase it. So you could use a lot of disks. One of the advantages was that compared to the floppy disk, you could store a whole lot more information. This floppy disk could store at the most 2 megabytes. This could store 650 or 700 megabytes. 2, 700. 2, 700. Big difference. So people started using these because you could store a lot more information. Pictures, music, videos, documents, whatever you wanted on there. Now the way information is stored on the optical disc is that it's actually physically stored on there. There are little bumps inside the plastic, or there's dark spots and light spots, depending on how the CD is made. If it's made in a factory, there's little bumps, and if you had a really good magnifying lens, you could zoom on down and you'd see these little bumps. Each bump is a little bit of data, a little bit of information. If you were burning this or recording inside your computer, then it would make dark spots or light spots. And those darker light spots would have the information. Of course, the disk turns around and around inside your computer, and as it goes around and around, the data is read off into your computer. So of course, inside your computer, you'd have to have one of these, which is a CD drive. This CD drive is called a 4-speed CD drive, and you'd have to, of course, put the CD in there. I can't get this one open, and I'm not going to break it open either, but inside is a laser. The laser would shine or look on the disk, and that's how it would figure out the information. Okay. After that, after a while, came along the ones you could actually erase. Those were a little bit more expensive at first, but then you could erase your CDs and you could put new information on them. You could erase them again, put new information on them. And the way it would do that is making dark spots or light spots. And if you're erasing information, changing the dark spots back to light spots, and so on and so forth. So these became the storage device, the portable storage device, to take information from one place to another, from school or work to home, from home back to school or work. They were used in laptop computers and all sorts of other devices. So that's number 3 for storage devices. The next storage device to come out was actually one of these. This is called either a memory card or a flash drive or a USB flash drive. You'll notice it has this little rectangular plug that you put into the computer, so you'd have to have a computer that had these kinds of ports. This is called a USB, Universal Serial Bus. Now inside this thing, there's a little microchip, and the microchip is where the information is stored. So you would plug this into your computer, you would store something on here, you would copy something onto here, and then the data would be stored on the little microchip. The way it's stored, it's a special kind of static electricity. Well, it's static electricity. One of the advantages of that is clearly this is much, much smaller than any other drive. The second advantage is that a magnet will not impact this at all. Okay? So it doesn't matter. It's not going to be susceptible to magnets or being close to a television or anything like that. It's also not going to be susceptible to scratches, like the optical disks are susceptible to scratches. And if you have disks at home that go on the computer and the TV, you know that scratches can really cause them not to work. So this is a pretty good storage device. People started hanging them around their necks, and they could walk from home to work or school and back, and they'd have all their files right on there. Somewhere around there is when actually I think slightly before that was the DVD disc. So here's a DVD disc. This is a blank DVD disc. You'll notice on the back side it has the shiny surface. And if you look very closely at the back of this DVD, you'll see that there's like a darker ring along the edge, and then it's lighter. The lighter area is where it's been recorded on. So there is information on this disk, a lot of information. It starts toward the center and it moves out to the edge. But this very edge here still has space to have more data. Now there might be music on here, or videos, or pictures, or whatever. How much could this store? Well, it could store a whole lot more than a CD. So here's a CD that will store 700 gigabytes. The DVD would store 4,700 gigabytes. And some DVDs would actually have two layers, a layer on top and a layer on the bottom, and so you could store twice that much, or 9 gigabytes of data. So that's a lot of data compared to the CD, which would only store not even 1 gigabyte, less than 1 gigabyte, 0.7 gigabytes. The drives for the DVDs looked very much the same. Here's a DVD drive. It would also play CDs. If it said DVD recorder or DVD-R or DVD-RW, that stood for DVD recordable or rewritable, and you could store information on DVDs. People started storing a lot of information on DVDs because it was portable, but then not everybody would have a DVD drive inside their computer. At work and school, sometimes there weren't DVD drives. So people actually stuck with storing information, portable information on CDs for a long time, until the flash drives came out. Now flash drives have all sorts of different shapes. So here's one we looked at. Here's another one right here. This one comes in a little case. It's kind of nice looking. It's got a little light that comes on. Okay, another flash drive. Inside there, again, is the flash memory. Here's a orange one. And in this one, if you look really, really closely, you can see that there's cards right in there. Okay, there's a memory card on this side and a controller card on that side. So all the information is stored on that little memory card. And inside that little black case with a few letters on it, that's where the information is stored. More information than could even be stored on a DVD. So that's a lot of information. As those devices were developing, though, the hard drive was getting to store more and more information. So it's always been the case that a drive inside the computer would store more information than any of the removable storage, like the floppy disk, the CD, the flash drive. So there's one final storage device, and that one is the memory card. Now the memory card also uses flash storage, just like the little flash drives. So it's the same thing. Here's a little flash drive, here's a camera, and here's the memory card. In this case, this is called a SD card, secure digital card. There's all sorts of different sizes of these memory cards. And so when you're using a device, you have to make sure you're getting a memory card that's exactly the right size and it fits right inside. Also, some of the memory cards store a different amount of information. This memory card will hold 16 gigabytes, which is much more than our DVD, which could only store less than 5. So 16, less than 5. 16, less than 5. And nowadays, memory cards can store much more than 16 gigabytes, depending on how much a person is willing to spend to buy one. So the memory cards started replacing the floppy drives for removable storage, especially inside of cameras. You'll notice how much smaller this is to put inside a camera than the floppy disk would have been. All right, so let's look over one more thing, and that is the insides of a computer and where the drives are. So here's a computer right here, and on the front side there are some drives. On the top there's a DVD drive, so that would play DVDs, and it would also play CDs just as well. Down here is just a CD drive. This would not play DVDs. It says on it compact disc, so if you put a DVD into it, it wouldn't work. And then right here is the floppy drive. So if I grab another floppy disk, I can put that floppy disk in right here. That's our floppy drive. Okay, now let's take a look on the inside. So on the inside of the computer, each of those drives is stored within a bay. So here's a bay for the DVD drive. There's the little power cable, and then inside there's also a data cable. Here's the CD drive, there's the power, and there's the data cable. Here is the floppy drive, here's the data cable right here, and there's the power going to it. And then down here is the, and this is kind of heavy, but I'll bring it closer so you can see. Down here is the hard drive. So this computer had 4 drives in it: DVD, CD, floppy, DVD, CD, floppy, and a hard drive. Most information was stored on the hard drive, but when you needed to put information in, you'd probably put it in the DVD or the CD drive, and if you wanted to store some information to take somewhere, you'd probably put it on the floppy drive. So those are our 6 different storage devices that are very common right now or have been used recently at homes. The first, again, was the 5 1/4 inch floppy disk. Then came the hard drive, which stored a lot more information inside a computer. Then came the slightly larger floppy disk, slightly smaller floppy disk. Then came the CD and the CD drive. Then the next one was either the DVD drive or the flash drive. I don't remember which one came first. But the DVD drive looked almost the same as the CD drive. There's our DVD. And then we had our flash memory on the USB card, and also the flash memory inside a device, like a phone or a camera. I hope you've learned a lot about the different storage devices for computers and what they can be used for. Thank you for watching.